Let me start by saying you've made it through 100% of your worst days. I've had to repeat that to myself quite a bit here recently, but if you're listening or watching this morning, you've made it through even your very worst days. Your very worst days. Over the latter parts of my life, within the last 10 years specifically, I've run into scenarios or situations that have challenged me to handle pressure. These situations have revealed a stunning truth. I feel pressure much differently now than when I was younger. As I removed many of my old crutches of the past, my true weaknesses bubbled to the surface. Maybe some of you are scared to speak in public or have nerves as you step up to hit that 2-foot putt on the golf course, or you're afraid to become more assertive in your relationship, or are worried about paying your bills this month. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about, a feeling of butterflies in its kindest moments, or great despair and panic in its worst. If that's you, I offer you hope today. A hope-filled garden hose. I was able to overcome some of these fears when I began to view these situations through a more scientific lens. And I'm hoping that you too will find some peace and freedom in this approach and understanding. One of the people that led me to these breakthroughs, these unlocking principles, is a man named Peter Crone. And he has one of my favorite quotes. He says, "What happened happened and couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't." What happened happened and couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't. He broke these experiences down through science, physics, through the analogy of a garden hose lying on the ground. Let's say the water is flowing through at a consistent speed uninterrupted, but you put your foot slightly on the hose. What happens? It reduces the amount of flow space. When you reduce space, the water is forced to travel at an increased velocity to get through. Now, if you apply that same principle to each of the very subtle channels of our mind, you'll see a very similar pattern. When we have slight pressure, everything moves quicker within our circulatory system. So what happens is the power of the mind, this insanely powerful machine, when you're backstage getting ready to speak in front of the crowd and you begin to feel that pressure mounting, what's actually occurring is you're literally becoming physiologically different, a different human being by virtue of the fact that your chemistry is changing, your heart rate, your respiratory rate, your blood pressure. So in my case, what used to feel very comfortable felt very unfamiliar in this new state based on perspective, a perception of pressure. In turn, I didn't have as much confidence to be able to execute what I would normally be able to do in my sleep. The great news for you is when you understand how your mind is truly informing physiology, you can better control the behavior and ultimately the result. So how do you overcome this stage fright feeling? Well, step one is just having the awareness of it. It's a pattern. It's not you, it's a pattern. It's a piece of code based in dialogue, which was accumulated over a long period of time. Most likely for many of you, those patterns started way back in childhood. This created an identity which creates the experience emotionally of anxiety, fear, and then inevitable behaviors and results. It's all based in fear. As Peter says, most people are trying to avoid a bad future that hasn't happened yet. Whatever the fundamental concern is, your mind is creating a perception of a future that hasn't happened yet, and it's eliciting a physiological, systematic response that you call fear, worry, and anxiety. Feelings are a terrible indicator of truth. Just because we feel something doesn't mean that's the way it is. So as I said when I started, you've made it through 100% of your very worst days. You can overcome your worst fears, insecurities, and anxieties by understanding that today is all you have. Be grounded in the moment, in reality. Virtually all of your fears are based in a future that is not real. It's never a question of whether life will present us with challenges. It's to what degree do we recognize they are the opportunity for us to become greater versions of ourselves. The pressure and stress, the heartaches and disappointments, all either reasons to give up or opportunities to overcome. So no matter your current challenge, I believe you will overcome. Now you have to believe.